All right. Y'all can tell by the title what I actually mean, but let's just go ahead and say it. The riots that are going on worldwide over I'm going to say it like that guy, the casual drinker, whatever his name is, but the virus of unknown origin. I'm going to be very, very careful. And honestly, I do feel conflicted because, in the sense of honesty, I've had both of my shots. I've had both the shots. Now, of course, people have still been tested positive, even if they have both the shots. You even go to some places that, you need like a drug test or something like that, any drug test. They still want you to wear a mask. Doesn't matter if you've had both your shots. And of course, now with the rise of the Delta variant, the lockdowns are returning in large swaths of the world. Couldn't really decide which one to choose, but so this is where we are now. We see Germany, France, we see the UK fighting these things out. I'm watching this hilarious circus and peanuts stuff go on between SoCal Antifa fights anti-maskers protesting LA Cancer Clinic. I think there's some cognitive dissonance in this, and I'm going to try to break this down a little bit. Antifa will say, oh, the U.S. is a racist country and everything else, but will bend the knee to the government because they say everyone needs their shot. You need to take their shot. Republicans are doing this. Republicans are not getting their shots. Well, I'm going to be a centrist. I'm going to be a dirty, dirty, dirty centrist and say it like this. Okay. The thing is, though, is that you can say people have died from the virus. All right. I will acknowledge that. But to say that people have died from taking the shot, yes, they have as well. And people have, gotten, a, droopy mouth and everything else like that, and droopy face as well from the shot. So I am very, very conflicted. But I think that, honestly, when I saw the fighting in Australia, and you saw the cops come out, beat people up, and, bring them down and everything, we saw, just how tyrannical it has become. Authoritarian, if you will. And we see this virus as a form of control, right? That's what a lot of people think. Now, like I say, I've already made my bias clear at the beginning, where I've had both my shots. But we see the differences between the haves and the have-nots. We have seen this, between the idea of creating different groups of people, to say the unvaccinated versus the anti-vaxxers and all this type of thing. But let's talk a little bit more about the cognitive dissonance, and then I'll try to wrap it up. The cognitive dissonance that goes on with people who claim to be left-wing, who say, you need to get your shot. I thought you didn't like the government. I thought you didn't like big corporations that sell these vaccines. That's all they can really say. At least in my opinion. Well, that's it's obviously a bad thing, but you still need to get your shot. It's like, I thought the government was bad. The current government was evil and was fascist and all this. Well, yes, but you still need. This is why, in general, I will never call myself a left-wing person or a right-wing person. Because I think it's because you have to deal with the excesses of both of those sides. You don't want to be claimed to be left-wing because you obviously, if you're decent and you care enough about optics, you don't want to be aligned with like the PSL or even the DSA or these Antifa folks and say that's not really left wing, right? And you're on the right, and if you're on the right and you care enough about optics, you don't want to be associated with the Proud Boys or aligned with, whoever. Well, let me go ahead and wrap this up. I'm conflicted. I am. You may not think I am, but I am. I'm very conflicted about the future. I'm very conflicted about where things are going. I'm very conflicted about that. You may not think that, but I am. And I think that it just goes to show that this is why people in general do not call themselves anything specifically, because there are just so many folks that are willing to bend the knee, that will call themselves, anti-establishment or whichever, right? But will bend the knee because everyone needs to be vaccinated because it's better for everybody type of thing, Ignore, of course, the fact that, that these pharmaceutical companies will produce these vaccines, cut rate, we'll get all sorts of deals. Side effects are not completely known. The use of, my God, I've heard it so many times, and I can't think, but basically the testing for, these exotic viruses and whatnot that Dr. Fauci allowed, people just don't, they're just like, no, you got to take the vaccine. And to me, it's this overwhelming sense of everything has to be sacrificed for science. And to me, science is just as fallible as anything. This is one of the biggest problems I have, I think, with atheism in general, is that, I may have my doubts about aspects of religion, whether that's Christianity or Islam or whichever. I don't even know all the details of these religions, to be honest with you. But to simply bend the knee, and I know I've used bend the knee several times, but to just simply say, well, science is great, and ignore, of course, that science is controlled by big corporations, that scientists, I'll put it this way, that you think that biologists and chemists and, whomever else works in the pharmaceutical industry, pharmacologists, you think that these folks can just freely do what they want? No. They have guidelines just like everybody else. But of course, nobody wants to talk about that in general. That, you can talk about, the advancement of science and all this. Well, the thing is that ultimately the advancement of science relies more on the power of the state and also that personal scientist's ulterior motives. Look at Albert Einstein, right? He had I want to say Freemasonic, but he had other beliefs as well. Even though he broadly called himself maybe atheistic, he held some other beliefs. I'm going to say more satanic ones, but maybe I'm just smearing him. And I know people say, but yeah, it's a very difficult thing. And I think it goes to show that people do not really they would rather sacrifice their principles of being anti-authoritarian so that they could get, so that they could, have everyone vaccinated. So, everybody can be, I don't really understand it, to be honest with you. I don't have the brain power, I guess, to understand it, but it's just like, okay, why do you care that everyone's vaccinated? Because we all have to believe science. But of course, then people will mention, what do you think about the Tuskegee experiment? That's racist. it's very hypocritical, a lot of dissonance going on though. A lot of stuff where people just it's kind of like a rat in a maze where it's just like, well, do we go this way or go that way? It's just like, I don't know. I'm trying to be somewhat nuanced here, but golly, it's very painful to see. Anywho, hopefully y'all enjoyed that. I'm gonna be sure to edit this down a little bit. That way, no talking in the background, this and that. Anyway, hopefully y'all enjoyed that. So see you later, and goodbye.